Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kim. This is the Bookclub environment tag video. So I'm super excited about this video because Hannah and I, Hannah from Handpick blog, who I run the Bookclub with, we've devised a tag video which is themed around the environment. Because the round one of the Bookclub is also themed around the environment. We've got some really fun questions, and then we've also got some quite in-depth discussion questions as well, which Hannah came up with. I think they're really interesting topics, and hopefully you guys will enjoy talking about them too if you do the tag video. If you've been watching the channel a while now, you're probably bored of hearing about it, but the books that we're reading about for the first round of the Bookclub is The Future We Choose by Christiana Figueres and Tom Rivett-Carnac, and also Unbowed by Wangari Maathai. If you feel like you fancy reading either one of these two or ones of a similar nature and want to join us for the live show, then please absolutely do. We're going to do a live show I think at the end of October, but the date is yet to be confirmed for that. So yeah, definitely come join us if you want to. I think it's going to be a really interesting discussion just from the bits that I've read so far. Okay, so question number one is, what is your favourite book cover that features nature? When we first decided that this was one of the questions we were going with, I actually looked at my shelves and I was like, I don't really have any books with nature on, but I did some digging, and so I'll show you my three favourite from my shelves that I have at the moment. And the first one is The Feather Thief, which I go on about a fair bit on this channel even though I haven't read it yet, and I just absolutely love this cover. I mean, look at that. It's really nice. It's not plants, it's feathers, but you know. And then the other book I've got is Folk by Zoe Gilbert, which my friend bought me a couple of years ago, and sadly I haven't read it yet. I really need to get on and read this. I did start reading it at some point, and it was a lot more, if I remember rightly, it was a lot more brutal than I thought it was going to be. Don't quote me on that because it was a while ago that I started reading it. So I can't really tell you what it's about, but I just think this cover is really, really nice. And the third book that I really liked off my shelves is The Offing by Benjamin Myers. And this is the cover here. I just think it's just so peaceful looking, right by the sea. So yeah, those are my three favourite covers featuring nature on my shelves currently. So the second question is, have you read any fiction books that feature climate change as the theme, or if you haven't, are there any books on your TBR that you'd like to get to which have climate change as a theme of the book? And for me, the fiction book that I read earlier this year, which has climate change as a theme, is Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. So this is kind of the diary of a young girl who is living in a dystopian version of the world where water is difficult to get hold of, I think really expensive. There's people living on the streets. It's absolute carnage because everything is completely run down. The economy is completely broken down. Everything's in a pretty desperate state. It's set in California. Yeah, it's basically really scary to read because much like in the pandemic this year, where we saw kind of supermarkets being absolutely cleaned out because people were panic buying and stuff like that, this has a similar frantic vibe to it, but 10 million times worse. It's really violent. But anyway, this is not a full-blown review. I will put my video where I reviewed this in the description below, if I can find it. So yes, a warning of what we don't want to happen. Question number 3 is, are there any books set in the polar regions that you really want to read or that you have read and you've absolutely loved? So this one, I looked through my TBR kind of shelf on Goodreads, so I don't own any of those books on Goodreads, on my Goodreads TBR shelf or want to read shelf. And I had one book based in the Arctic on that list, which is A Woman in the Polar Night by Christiane Ritter. And I think, well, this is a memoir, so it's a true story, and I think it's Christiana's memoir when her husband asks her to move to the Arctic, to an island in the Arctic with him, and it's her experiences there. I think it happened in the 1930s, and so it's just all about her experience about living in the Arctic, and I just think that sounds absolutely fascinating. Question number 4 is, what are your opinions on the relationship between book consumerism and the environment? Should people buy fewer physical books to help minimise deforestation, for example? And this is a really interesting question. Hannah came up with this question, and when I first read it, I was kind of like, oh no, is this something I'm going to read up about, and then I won't want to buy any more physical books and feel really guilty, and do I really want to find out? I mean, I absolutely obviously wouldn't be doing this at book club if I wanted to kind of not find out about this stuff. So yeah, I did a little bit of reading on the internet, and I will link all the links down below of kind of sources where I got this information from if you wanted to go and check out any articles yourself. So the main kind of argument that I could find was between e-readers and books. And from the research that's been done, it has been suggested that in order to kind of leave a lower carbon footprint with an e-reader, you have to read at least 22, 23 books on that e-reader before you kind of exchange it for another one, for it to kind of be better for the environment than a physical book for the environment. They can't actually recycle books because of the glue in the binding that they use, and the process of like kind of breaking off the spine and getting rid of all that stuff that they can't recycle when they pulp it up is really time consuming and would cost a lot of money, so they just don't do it. And they were saying that like the publishers, I think it was an article I read that had been written in April this year, and it said that publishers, I will say it was an alternative publishers that was very eco-friendly, so I don't know where their stats are from, and they are obviously biased to this conversation because of their own business. But they said that producers expect like around 30% of their books to be returned to them, which will then either be recycled or will go to landfill or will be burnt. So then you think, okay, well, I read a fair bit in a year, so maybe I should stop buying books and actually just use my e-reader. But then you've also got to think about things like, well, the actual toxic chemicals that they use to make e-readers, and what e-reader are you using? Are you going to give it up kind of really quickly in exchange for a new e-reader? And well, what about kind of where they manufacture these e-readers? Like, what are the conditions like for the workers, and are they protected from toxic chemicals and things like this? So I think like just with everything, as soon as you delve into a subject, just like the tiniest little bit, the answer is never clear. And there's always pros and cons to everything. I never used to read more than 22 books in a year. I would read about 4 books in a year. So therefore, it would have been best then for me to buy physical books. But now, like, I've currently read 30 odd books this year, which is amazing for me. And so I'm really pleased with that. And so maybe I should be reading everything on an e-reader. I have a Kindle and I have an iPad and I also have my phone, so that's 3 devices I could read books on already without buying physical books. So why am I buying physical books? Because I already have these devices. So yeah, I actually don't know what to think about this, and I'm really interested to hear any of your guys' thoughts if you end up doing this tag as well. I will say, like, the other answer is obviously libraries and using your library in order to get books. But if you get ebooks from the library, then you're going to need an e-reader, so that doesn't really solve that problem. But if you get physical books, then obviously you're not buying a book and you're sharing that book with lots of people, so that would obviously bring the carbon footprint right down. But then my problem with the library, I think libraries are amazing, especially if you can't get a book and you can go to your library and pick it up. Is absolutely amazing. But then what about the authors? Like, how do they get paid? If people are going to the library and not buying the books, I always think if you're able to and you're kind of privileged enough to have the money to buy books, should you do it? Because then you're financially supporting authors and then they can go on to make other books. And if you use the library, you're not doing that. So it's a really tough one, like, to know what the right answer is. I mean, from the environmental standpoint, I guess the library is the best option. Basically, this kind of led me down a whole rabbit hole on the internet, and I ended up learning a lot about things that I didn't know about before, but then also I'm just left confused and I don't really know what the answer is. So yeah, I'm really interested to see what you guys think about it. Okay, so the 5th question is, what role do you think books and reading has in regards to educating people about the environment? Do you think it is the most effective way to teach people about environmental issues? Again, this is one of Hannah's great questions and had me kind of stumped for a little while. I haven't done any research on this one, so this is a little bit more just like what I think just off the top of my head, rather than the last one. So I love books and I love reading because I love to learn about things. Don't know if it's the most effective way to teach people, because a lot of people don't like to read, and it's obviously very time consuming. So when I really think about it and I'm honest about it, if you have a book and you had someone who has read the book and you've got the key points in hand, because especially with fiction books, especially with non-fiction books, they do kind of tend to hammer the point home. So they'll say the same thing time and time and time again, with different scenarios or whatever, explaining it to you. So maybe it's better for somebody to read the book and then pass it on to the masses through video form, say. I know that actually a good YouTuber to go to for environmental information, especially on climate change and things like that, is Simon Clarke. I used to watch his PhD videos that he did when he was doing a PhD, and now he primarily is a YouTuber. So I'll link his channel down below. Definitely recommend him to check out. So yeah, I think they're necessary books, because non-fiction books that I think are really necessary for people who like to read non-fiction to read, and then obviously to kind of try and pass information on when appropriate. But I guess obviously the other type of books is fiction books, and I think then it could be really useful to kind of talk about the environment and global warming, climate change, in order to kind of show you what could happen and the what ifs, like science fiction, like speculative fiction, like The Parable of the Sower. Books like this really kind of show you the horror of what could happen. So even though they're not fact, they're still based on kind of science. So yeah, I think in conclusion to my really nonsense ramblings, and I realise now I should have planned it like I did the other question, but I think it's important. Yeah, I think books are important in teaching about the environment, definitely. But with regards to practical information about what we can do now, as long as someone reads the book and passes the information on in some other form, then yes, I think they are necessary. Of course they're necessary. Like, how else do you learn without doing all the research yourself? You definitely need the books in the first place, but then to the masses, maybe other media is much more effective. Okay, that's my answer. So leading into that, question number 6 is, have you ever read a non-fiction book that you think everybody should read? When I was thinking about the answer to this question, I realised that I actually haven't read massive amounts of books on climate change or the environment yet. I plan on reading more, but you know, it's a process. So the books that I have read so far is This Is Not a Drill by the Extinction Rebellion lot, Greta Thunberg's No One Is Too Small to Make a Difference, and Eating Animals. Now this is not really about climate change, it's about factory farming. But I would recommend, and I do think people should read this, because I think that there is obviously a massive link between emissions and factory farming, and this is horrific. It's a horrific read. It's about factory farming in America. I still haven't read anything about the UK. I think to get an idea of factory farming, I think this is an important read. Okay, so question number 7 is, what is the most beautiful place in nature that you have read a book? And for me, this is in a town in Canada that I lived, and it's a town in the Rockies in Canada, and there was a lake, but there was a river there, which I used to go and sit by and read, and it's absolutely beautiful, and that's my favourite place in the whole world. I absolutely love it. So I'll put a picture up for you to see. The books in this picture are my study books, because I was doing Open University, which is an online university in the UK. If you're not already in Canada, and you can go to Canada, I highly recommend it. It's just so beautiful. Okay, so the last question is, if you could live in any natural setting in any book, where would it be? And kind of following on from my last answer about Canada, I think just any book that is set within the mountains and a mountain range, I would absolutely just love to live there. I just finished reading A Heart So Fierce and Broken by Bridget Kemmerer, and part of this book is set in like a mountainous region with very rich forests around it, and that is the kind of setting I would absolutely love to live. Okay, so that's the tag. So if anybody wants to do the tag themselves, I would absolutely love it. Please leave a link down below to your video if you do one. I would absolutely love to watch them. but I am going to tag 2 people. Of course everybody's tagged, but I am going to tag 2 specific people. They don't have to do it, but I just wanted to tag them. And the first person is Lee from Lee Mac, who I've talked about before on my channel. She's absolutely amazing, love her reviews, and I would be really intrigued to hear her thoughts on these questions and her answers on these questions. I'll leave a link to her channel down below so you can check her out if you would like to. And the second person I would like to tag is Emily from the channel Emily Beth Hall. I really love watching her videos as well. She started doing recently weekly vlog videos, and yeah, I just love watching them and see what she's been reading. Yeah, so I'll also leave a link down to Emily's channel down below if you want to check her out too. And yeah, so I tag you guys to do the tag if you want to. Obviously Hannah is also doing this, so I'll leave a link to Hannah's video too. And I'll leave a link to Hannah's tag video when it goes up. Okay guys, that's everything from me today. Thank you so much for watching, I really appreciate it, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care guys, bye.